This program is brought to you by 22trust.
They will return from the land of their enemy, so there is hope for your future, declares the Lord. Your children will return to their own land.
Mania Yastrebinsky, 12 years old, Ukraine. Frida Puki, 16 years old, Latvia. David Soldin, 14 years old, Poland. Alexander Gurevich, 12 years old, Russia.
I was only 3, and I already understood a lot. And I understood that very bad people in Europe wanted to kill all of us. And in order to not get killed, I had to play along. I had to play that I was not a little Jewish girl. The people who were not Jewish would come to our home and playfully take me away, and I should not cry, and I should in no way be sad, because I was not me. I went on playing that I was someone else.
The tragedy of the Holocaust can never be measured. This tragedy, the greatest crime ever perpetrated against any people, community or nation, when 6 million Jewish people, 2/3 of the whole of European Jewry, wiped out. The fact that throughout that period there were a few righteous Gentiles, for that we give praise and thanks to God, and the names of their families are remembered here on this wall. Hard though it is to see, one good thing came out of the ashes of the Holocaust. The nation of Israel was born again. God is speaking. I will never stop doing good to them, and I will inspire them to fear me so that they will never turn away from me. I will rejoice, says God, in doing them good, and will assuredly plant them in this land with all my heart and soul. That's what this program is about. Aliyah, the planting, the rooting of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. When Jewish people begin to see their hope and their future in the land of Israel, they make Aliyah. This is the modern Hebrew term for the return to Zion, to the biblical homeland Israel. Of course, it's not easy. When here in this land and their roots need to go deep into this society and into this community, life can be tough. There is no quick growth. A tree needs to have strong roots, and it can take a generation perhaps before there is real fruit upon it. But what a joy eventually for them to see in their families the growth and the potential that this land offers to the Jewish people.
The Absorption Center is where immigrants begin their new lives in Israel. Here we offer a safe, nurturing living environment, intensive Hebrew classes, employment training, and placement and assistance with registration and financial aid. It's very exciting to help Jews from all over the world make Aliyah.
This is my room. I love it very much. And over here is my roommate. And over here is the kitchen. This is where we keep our food. And here are my beautiful pictures of all my friends. When I first arrived here last week, it was like a dream come true. At first, I didn't know what to expect, but I have to say that I really like my room, and my roommate very much. I am excited about my new life and all the opportunities that I have here. In the Ukraine, I lived in a boarding school because my parents abandoned me. With the help of Exodus, I was able to make Aliyah. They helped me with my documents and I attended their seminars. I am studying the Hebrew language and learning about the culture here. I am really enjoying it. After I get settled, I'll join the army and then go to the university and study psychology. This is great. It's just everything I ever dreamed about.
What a day we live in. The Bible says that this return, this Aliyah, will be from the north, the south, the east and the west. We have seen and we are seeing the Russian Jews come from the land of the north. We have seen the Ethiopian Jewish people come from the land of the south. We're seeing Jewish people come from the west, from America, from Europe. And we are now seeing the return after 2,700 years dispersed, the tribe of Manasseh coming from the east. You know, the Bible couldn't be clearer. It says in Isaiah 49:22 that we Gentiles can bring Jewish sons in our arms and carry Jewish daughters on our shoulders. We need your help to help more of these people come to this land, the land of Israel.
Your gift will assist 22 Trust to pursue the all-important task of Aliyah, helping Jewish people home to Israel. Aliyah Assistance helps 22 Trust associates in providing moral and spiritual support, documentation help, humanitarian aid, and transport to the airport from where they will fly direct to Israel. Will you call the number on your screen and help more orphans like Sasha, whose journey home was only realized with the commitment of friends like you?
The return of the Jewish people, that's what Aliyah is, but they have to return to something, or when they find that there's nothing, of course they must rebuild. All over Israel there's construction, there's roads, they're building houses, they're building schools, they're building hospitals. And this is how the scripture puts it, that they, the Jewish people, will rebuild the ancient ruins and restore the places long devastated. They will renew the ruined cities that have been devastated for generations. Indeed, this land, the land of Israel, is the inheritance for the Jewish people. And what a day we live in. When we see the restoration of the people to this land, we see the rebuilding of this land. We're seeing how the Jewish community are putting their roots deep down into this land.
The State of Israel is a state that was founded on Aliyah. Aliyah is the fuel, it is the engine of growth for this country, not just in economic or social terms, but also in spiritual terms. We are seeing God's hand gather His people, people who have wandered for centuries, many of whom were cut off from their heritage, and yet now they are finding their way home.
Jews like Reza and her family, exceedingly poor, malnourished, they existed in a small cottage with no proper facilities and sleeping 3 or 4 to a bed. Exodus staff were able to bring humanitarian help and sustain them whilst working on their documentation and finally help carry them home to Israel. Aliyah is not just about better living conditions. It is also about Jewish dignity and their contribution to rebuilding the nation of Israel.
At first, it was a bit difficult moving to a new country, but once we settled, I was able to see how different our lives would be. The living conditions are great, and the children are now in school. The future looks very bright for our family.
Well, it's only a few hours by plane, but it's a whole world away from the conditions Reza and family were living in the Ukraine. And with the help of people like you, it's been able to make a tremendous difference as this family have hope for their new life here in Israel. Reza, now called Rachel, is now in a beautiful environment. It's a struggle putting your roots down into this land. but the possibilities for her children as they are now going through schooling, as they are coming into Jewish society and community, they are remarkable. With your help, we can bring more raisers. Help us to help them.
What a joy it is to see Raza's family taking part in the building up of the nation of Israel. And what a privilege it was for 4922 Trust to help this family to their new home. God invites us all to take part of this restoration of the Jewish people to the land of Israel and to the God of Israel. Your gift of 4922 will help identify with the call of God to this end. Call the number on your screen and join with us as we participate in this restoration.
When the Lord brought back the captives to Zion, we were like men who dreamed. This is what the Jewish people feel. They say our mouths were filled with laughter and our tongues with songs of joy. And then we Gentiles can come into the picture and we can say, then it was said amongst the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. And we are glad. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. That is the response of the Jewish people. And here's the prayer. Restore our fortune, O Lord, like streams in the Negev. We are privileged in our generation, not only to see this with our eyes, but also to help in this process. Aliyah is like a stream in the desert.
Natalia was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen.
Raphael was my first love. When we met for the first time, I looked into his beautiful eyes and I knew he was the right man for me.
We started dating and fell in love almost immediately. We had so much fun together.
We dated for 4 years. Those were the happiest days of my life. One day we had a disagreement. It was actually the same time when my brother left to fight in World War II. So my parents told us that we must leave to escape the Nazis.
There was the worst day of my life. Natalia left before we could speak. There was so much that I wanted to say, but she was gone.
Years went by and I eventually met a man who became my husband. He did not treat me well and cheated on me often. My health was deteriorating and I eventually went blind. I could not have afforded the operation in Ukraine to restore my sight. My brother, who had moved to Israel, urged me to make Aliyah. He told me that in Israel I could receive the necessary medical treatments. I decided to make Aliyah a few months later.
My wife of many years died of cancer. I was very depressed and lonely. I was losing my eyesight and I was all alone. One day I received a call that there was going to be a reunion. They told me Natalia was living in Israel, but she was going to come for the reunion.
It was great to see my old friends again. We were in the kitchen making pies and one of my friends came into the kitchen to tell me Raphael was there. I rushed out of the kitchen and saw a very handsome man staring at me.
I started to cry when I saw Natalia. We hugged, and it was like we were never apart.
It was so great to see Raphael and to be together again with him. I begged him to make Aliyah. He said yes, for sure, he would come, and he moved here 4 weeks ago.
I love Natalia and also my new life in Israel. Not only do I have my love back, but I can be a Jew again.
Soon Raphael will go to the doctors to get his eyes fixed. It is truly a miracle that we are together again and that we can live our life as Jews without hiding our heritage.
What a joy to share in their love story. And what a blessing it was to hear how Natalia, soon after her arrival here in Israel, had an operation that actually did restore her physical sight. And of course, what joy to hear that Raphael, although he's only been here in Israel for 1 month, soon will have an appointment, and God willing, they will be able to restore his physical sight. You know, it says in the scriptures here that in the days that God restores the Jewish people to this land, that he will refresh the weary and satisfy the faint. You know, and the greatest blessing is for us, how we have been able to help them and people like them to make Aliyah, that they might return to this land and establish themselves, put in their roots into this land and community. Help us to help more families like this.
Your gift of $49.22 or your gift of any amount will help 4922 Trust to promote and facilitate Aliyah, to help root God's people in the land of Israel. Will you call the number on your screen and help 4922 Trust Associates to help more Jewish people like Natalia and Raphael, whose fortunes were restored as they returned to Israel? Let us join with the Jewish people and in the Aliyah prayer that their fortunes will be restored like streams in the desert. Call us. As God enables you, let us enable them.
Ezekiel chapter 37, where we read that the hand of the Lord is upon me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of a valley. It was full of bones. He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. He asked me, Son of man, can these bones live? Ezekiel the prophet was a wise man. He said, I said, O sovereign Lord, you alone know. And God said to him, prophesy to these bones and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to these bones. I will make breath enter you, and you will come to life. I will attach tendons to you and make flesh come upon you and cover you with skin. I will put breath in you, and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord. You know, this vision that Ezekiel had is made very, very clear. God says to Ezekiel, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. This is a picture. It represents the Jewish people scattered through the nations of the world, without hope and lost, bones that are very, very dry. God says one day that he would prophesy and bring the bones together. He clearly says, I am going to open your graves, O my people, and bring you up from them. I will bring you back to the land of Israel.
I lived in an orphanage most of my life. But now, since I'm older, I live in a dormitory where the conditions are very bad. I'm studying woodworking, but there are no jobs to be had. I can only dream about getting an education and being successful.
This is an amazing program. We bring children here from the former Soviet Union to give them a formal education and also to teach them about their culture and heritage. It is a challenge teaching them, but one that I enjoy very much. It gives me great pleasure to see these children succeed and to also learn about their Jewishness.
Many of the children that come here do not have parents, so we must take on the role of the family. We feed them, clothe them, and totally support them and their studies here. We expose the children to what it is like to live in a healthy family and recondition them so that they will thrive in our culture here. We are not only saving these children's lives, but we are helping to fulfill one of God's commandments, to bring the Jews back home to Israel.
My brothers and I actually found out that we were Jewish by accident. We had no idea what it meant to be a Jew. We have been studying here a year now, and we love living in Israel. Our lives are totally different. We are learning about our Jewishness, and we feel proud to be a part of our new country.
With the help of Exodus,
I made Aliyah. I have finished my schooling here in Israel and I am now in the army. Coming to Israel has made me feel like a man. I now make my own decisions in life and I serve my country, which makes me very proud. After the army, I would like to go back to school and become an economist. I know that I can now fulfill my dreams for the future living in Israel.
It's great to help save the lives of young orphans and to bring them home to Israel, young people like Aliyah. And in so doing this, we Gentiles too are helping fulfill the Word of God.
Please call the number on your screen. Your gift will help 22 Trust Associates rescue abandoned Jewish children, bringing them home to Israel. Here in Israel, they are being rooted, establishing a home for the first time. Here they belong to a people, a nation, and to their God. Your gift of any amount will help provide moral and spiritual support, documentation help, humanitarian aid, and transport to the airport from where they fly direct to Israel.
The Bible says so clearly that the Jewish people are not to be afraid. For God says, I will bring your children from the east, and I'll gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not hold them back. What a remarkable day that we are living when we see the prophecy of Isaiah being fulfilled before our very eyes. Jewish people returning from the 4 quarters of the earth, coming back to this land which God promised to give to their children, to be Jews in a Jewish land.
I'm so excited right now. My parents are finally making Aliyah. I can't even put into words what my family means to me. Now, we will finally all be together again. My grandparents, parents, my sister and I. It's hard to believe it's really happening.
We have not slept for days. We are so excited to have our children here in Israel with us. It is hard to believe that 3 generations of our family will be together in Israel. It is really a blessing and a dream come true for us. Life was extremely difficult living in the Ukraine. Not only was it hard to make a living, but we never felt free to practice our Judaism. As the head of this family, I knew I had to do something to make a better life for my children and grandchildren. So my wife and I decided to make Aliyah.
Life was not easy in Israel at first, but we both worked very hard and now feel part of this land. We are very comfortable and happy here. Not only are we free to be Jews, but there are so many opportunities for our children and grandchildren here.
My sister and I moved to Israel to study a few years ago. It has really been great. We are able to get a good education and be with our grandparents. I work part-time and attend my classes. For the first time in my life, I'm independent. I have my own apartment and soon will start my career. This would have not been possible if I were still living in Ukraine. Now there is only one thing missing in my life, and that's my parents being here with us. It's hard to believe that I will meet them at the airport tonight.
What a feeling, our whole family together again. You know, family is everything to me. Now, we can move forward with our lives in Israel. I have to admit, I am a bit nervous, because it will be challenging to start a new life. But with the support of my family and organizations like Exodus, I know that I can do this.
Sergei and Marina have made Aliyah. What a joy for us to witness them being welcomed at the airport by Nastya. And to see them then come to here, to Beersheba, to be reunited with their parents. 3 generations, all of whom have made Aliyah. The scripture puts it this way, that the cities and the streets and the towns which have been uninhabited will once again resound to the sounds of joy and the unity of the families. It says that God will restore the fortunes of the land as they were in the days before. It's our privilege to be able to help in this Aliyah. And with your help, we can see more families like this reunited in the land of Israel.
Your gift will help 22 Trust associates plant Jewish people in the land of Israel. To see Nastia's family being rooted in the land is both a privilege and a blessing. And what a joy for 22 Trust to be a part of helping unite 3 generations in their biblical homeland. Your gift of any amount will bring blessing and help unite families like theirs together in Israel. May we be amongst the righteous of the nations, those who seek not our own blessing, but the blessing of the seed of Abraham.
Perhaps there's no other place in the land of Israel than here, the Temple Mount, the Western Wall. The closest any Jew today can get to that temple, to the holy place where God said he would meet with the Jewish people. It's also a temple for all nations. And we from the nation should not forget that we have part in the promises of God through the Jewish people to us in the nations of the world. When I think of Aliyah, when I think of the return of the Jewish people from the former Soviet Union, when I see the hope that is in their soul as they are returning to this land, this is great. But then we observe the Jewish people in this land, and we see how God is planting them into this soil, into this community. I'm so impressed with this verse from the Bible, from the prophet Jeremiah, where God says, I will make an everlasting covenant with them. I will never stop doing them good, and I will inspire them to fear me, so that they will never turn away from me. And we, as Bible-believing Gentiles, can help in this process. Call us, partner with us, and with God's purposes for his ancient people. The verse goes on to make an expression that God has one and only time in the Bible where he says he will do something with all his heart and with all his soul. It's here. I will rejoice in doing them, that is the Jewish people. I will rejoice in doing them good, and I will assuredly plant them in this land with all my heart and soul.
It doesn't get much better than that. God promises that he will plant them in the land with all his heart and soul. Today, I invite you, through the teaching and practical ministry of 22 Trust and our associates, to participate in God's prophetic program and to help carry the Jewish people home to Israel. Your gift of 4922 or your gift of any amount will help root these Jewish people in the land of their forefathers. Call, even if you've called before. Maybe you want to call again. God is no man's debtor, and he promises to bless those who bless the seed of Abraham.
Thank you for joining us in this program. I want to assure you that with your help, we can bring more Jewish people into this land and community of Israel.